Here's your full narration script. At 12 minutes past midnight in the middle of the California desert, a tennis match ended. And nobody left. The umpire asked for silence. Once. Twice. 3 times. It didn't matter. The Filipino fans packed into Stadium 3 at Indian Wells weren't going anywhere. They had been there since morning practice. They had followed this girl from Court 6 all the way to the desert night air, and they were not leaving until they had screamed every last drop of joy out of their lungs. And in that moment, with the clock frozen at 12:12 a.m. and a 19-year-old lefty from the Philippines throwing her racket into the air and sprinting toward her parents, tennis had a new
lefty Alex Eala from the Philippines could be the next big thing in pro tennis.
This is the goal
My goal is to be able to integrate myself into the WTA circuit more and to be able to handle myself better on courts.
Bolted into the spotlight last month after making the semifinals at one of the biggest pro tennis tournaments in the world.
A beautiful, chaotic, completely unmanageable problem. And it had a name. The Eala effect. But here's the thing nobody's telling you. This wasn't just a feel-good crowd story. This was a tournament getting broken in real time. A billion-dollar event run by one of the most powerful men in the world, getting outmaneuvered by a 20-year-old girl from Manila and the diaspora that refuses to let her carry the flag alone. And by the time Indian Wells 2026 was over, even Martina Navratilova, 18 Grand Slam titles, 5 decades in this sport, was sitting in a commentary booth with her jaw on the floor. So let's go back to the beginning. Because this story didn't start in California. It started in Melbourne. The 2026 Australian Open set a single-day attendance record. 101,696 people walked through the gates of Melbourne Park on that day. And Alexandra Eala, ranked in the mid-40s at the time, was assigned to Court 6. Not a show court. Not a stadium. Court 6. One of the smaller outside venues. The kind of court where you can hear the ball hitting the strings from the back row. The kind of court that was never ever designed for what happened next. Queues to reach Court 6 stretched beyond an hour. Not 15 minutes.
Little did I know that I would, 100%. I think sports has always been on the front of social change and social progress.
If Eala, can keep doing well with her tennis, who knows? The sky's the limit on the court, off the court.
Is she the biggest draw in women's tennis right now in the world?
And then we have a big challenger after this.
Not half an hour. An hour. And hundreds of fans, people who had bought tickets, people who had woken up early, people who had made the journey specifically to watch this girl play, never made it to the viewing area at all. The court wasn't just full. It had functionally collapsed as a venue. The match happening inside it was bigger than the walls around it. And in the Tennis Channel commentary booth, Martina Navratilova and Lindsay Davenport watched all of this unfold with the kind of astonishment you can't fake. Navratilova said it was incredible. People were standing in line for an hour for the chance to possibly get close enough to watch. Davenport didn't mince words. She said Eala needed to be on a bigger show court. And then she said something that stopped people in their tracks. She called Alexandra Eala arguably the most famous female athlete ever to come out of the Philippines. This wasn't commentary.
Amazing, and it's been a different start this year than any other year I've ever had. So,
sports, Alex Eala makes history in the U.S. as the first Filipino tennis player to compete at
Is she the biggest draw in women's tennis right now? Is she bigger than Sabalenka? Is she bigger than Coco?
Dude, it's crazy. She's having the same effect that Fonseca was having, on the men's side last year.
This was documentation. 2 of the greatest players in the history of women's tennis were sitting there, watching a tournament fumble the biggest draw it had, and they were putting it on record, and they weren't the only legends paying attention. Kim Clijsters, for Grand Slam titles, one of the most beloved champions the sport has ever produced, had already offered the comparison that put everything in perspective. She described Eala as like Michael Jordan in the Philippines. Now sit with that for a second. Because that's not just a compliment about talent. That's a statement about gravity. Michael Jordan didn't just sell tickets. Michael Jordan restructured the economics of every arena he entered. His presence changed the math of every building. And what Clijsters was saying, what everyone watching was slowly realizing, is that Eala operates on the same principle. Just at a transnational level. Wherever Eala
advances to the Dubai WTA 1000 quarterfinals. Sheila Salaysay has that story.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to come on here and thank every single one of you for your support, taking the time and effort out of your day to be there and cheer me on with the other girls. It means so much, especially at this time of the year. I couldn't thank you more, and I had such a fun
plays. The Filipino diaspora doesn't travel to it like tourists. They travel to it like it's a home match. Like the court is their court. Like the trophy, if it ever comes, is their trophy to WTA Indian Wells. That diaspora was about to collide with something they were not expecting. The 2026 BNP Paribas Open, the tournament people call the fifth Grand Slam, decided to try something new. Something no previous edition had attempted. Ground pass holders, the everyday fans who buy the general access ticket to walk the grounds and watch matches across the outer courts, had always been barred from Stadium 1. That was the rule. Stadium 1 is the main event. You pay premium to sit there. Fine. But in 2026, the tournament added a new restriction. Ground pass holders were now also barred from Stadium 2, the second largest venue on the grounds. And on day one, before Alex Eala had hit a single ball in competition, the consequences of that decision were already playing out in real time. Thousands of Eala supporters
are such great experiences for me, especially playing in front of the best crowd ever, and I do my best. I do what I can, and just if I see an opening.
So young, and she's just coming through, so and obviously the first couple rounds, the schedule.
She has more confidence, and she goes for her shots without any doubt, I would say.
Definitely one of the bigger Filipino turnouts. Also New York was huge. It also depends what court you're on, that you...
Locked out of Stadium 2, flooded into the smaller outer courts. Overflowing. Standing room only. People pressed against fences, craning for a view. And Stadium 2 itself? During matches featuring Hubert Hurkacz, Jennifer Brady, Magda Linette, it sat more than half empty. The energy that usually defines that court had simply evaporated. The people who create atmosphere, who fill a stadium with noise and tension and the feeling that something is at stake, they were all somewhere else, jammed into venues that couldn't hold them because the policy had pushed them there. Fans on social media didn't hold back. They called it infamous. Tommy Haas and Larry Ellison had designed a ticketing system that somehow managed to simultaneously exclude the loudest fans in the building and drain the energy from their second biggest stage. And again, this was all before Eala had played a single point. Now, before the tournament began, Navratilova had gone further than crowd analysis. On March 2, 2026, she put out a detailed public assessment of Eala's game. And it was not all praise. She loved the craftiness. She loved the southpaw angle, the way a left-handed game creates problems that right-hand opponents spend their whole careers not fully solving.
Thank you, Jasmine, she says. Paolini gracious as ever in defeat. The former champion is out. Alexandra Eala.
This is going to go down the wire, but because of the week off from Eala, I think that she might be able to cause the upset here. And Paolini is not playing that great. And unlike the Alexandrova match in Abu Dhabi where Eala got overpowered.
She loved the tactical variety, the ability to change pace and shape and direction. But then came the warning. Eala is slight of build. And against the biggest power hitters on tour, against Sabalenka, against Gaff, that frame makes it harder to absorb pace and respond with interest. Navratilova's prescription was specific. The serve needed to get bigger. A heavier kick serve. Something that could take pressure off the baseline and shift the dynamic in service games. And she went even further. She looked directly at the established names at the top of the WTA and said the rest of the field is figuring out how to beat them. And she placed Alexandra Eala right at the center of that shift. Not as a promising kid. Not as a future threat. As a legitimate present-tense danger to the established order. 6 days later, the world got to watch whether that assessment was right. March 7, 2026.
Say that much higher, and I'm going to bring in a little boxing here because my dad wanted me to be a boxer, but I chose tennis. But Manny Pacquiao.
Good call.
Manny Pacquiao, we saw him when he... was at the top of his game.
It also depends what court you're on, that you feel the noise and
the other day with Alex Eala,
Stadium 3. Eala, seeded 31st, entering on a first-round bye, against world number 52 Diana Yastremska of Ukraine. On paper, Eala was the slight favorite. In reality, what followed was 2 hours and 43 minutes of tennis that logic could not fully explain. Yastremska brought 8 aces. Eala brought 2. Yastremska's powerful baseline game did exactly what Navratilova had warned about. It took the second set 6-4, after Eala had taken the first 7-5. And then, in the deciding third set with everything on the line, Eala found herself trailing 4-5. Watching Yastremska step up to the baseline to serve for the match. To end it. Right there she didn't. Eala broke back at love. And from that moment, the statistics became almost irrelevant. She held. And when Yastremska, who had accumulated 14 double faults across the entire match, faltered in the 12th game of the third set, it was over. 7-5, 4-6, 7-5. Final, but here's the number that will haunt this match forever. When every point had been counted, Alexandra Eala and Diana Yastremska had each won exactly.
Next round, obviously it's not in the way I wanted it to.
Is set to compete in the singles and doubles events.
With energy like that, you don't get tired, so it was good.
And Alex, so good to have you out here for the first time. How special is that?
Having too much crowd on this or any other tennis tournament is a very good.
Exactly 73 total points. 73 each. The match was a dead statistical tie. And Eala won it anyway. She won it on serve consistency when it mattered most. On breakpoint conversion at the moments that decided everything. And on something that doesn't show up in a stat sheet, the ability to stay present when defeat is one game away and find something inside yourself that wasn't there a minute before. The clock read 12:12 a.m. The desert air was cold. And the Filipino fans did not leave. Eala threw her racket and ran straight to her parents. Prize money, $61,865. 3.6 million
Dude, it's crazy. She's having the same effect that Fonseca was having, like, on the men's side last year in Miami.
It's like Fonseca, but I think it's bigger than Fonseca.
It is, yeah, it is.
Like, the Doha, like, crowds were insane for her last week.
Yeah.
Correct.
She's definitely one to watch, obviously because she's so good, but just for the atmosphere. You want to tune into her matches just to see what it's like on the court.
There's got to be, like, a little jealousy maybe from some of the women, that girls coming in.
Pesos. Live ranking, number 29. 6-5 ranking points earned before the sun came up, and that win, that midnight win in the cold air with the crowd that wouldn't stop screaming, immediately triggered what the whole tournament had been quietly building toward. The venue upgrade came on the spot. Eala's third-round match against world number 4 Coco Gauff, a rematch of their Dubai quarterfinal, was not going to Stadium 2. It was going to Stadium 1. The second largest tennis stadium in the world. Capacity 16,100. The organizers framed it as a duel of crowd darlings, Gauff's massive American fanbase on one side, the Filipino diaspora on the other. And the market agreed immediately. Resale prices for Eala's matches had already hit a floor of $2,760 just to walk through the door. Lower-tier seats for the Stadium 1 showdown were fetching $5,000. This was not a scheduling decision. This was a confession. The tournament was openly, publicly acknowledging that everything that had gone wrong, the half-empty Stadium 2, the overflowing outer courts, the infamous ticketing policy, the social media backlash, had happened because they had fundamentally miscalculated which athlete was actually driving Indian Wells 2026, so this is where it all lands. The ground pass controversy. The stadium that sat half-empty while smaller courts collapsed under the weight of Eala's following. The match that ended at 12:12 a.m. with a dead heat on the scoreboard and a Filipino girl winning it on sheer will. All of it, every piece of it, pointed toward one question that the 2026 BNP Paribas Open was not going to be able to answer quietly. In a stadium built for 16,000 people, split between two crowd darlings, could Alexandra Eala do what Martina Navratilova said she still needed to do? Could she beat the player who had exposed every limitation in her game just weeks earlier? The player who won 6-0, 6-2 in Dubai? The player who is, right now, one of the 4 best in the world?